Welcome to the Artist Work Ethic Podcast. I'm Mike Pelak. I'm an actor, screenwriter, and filmmaker who's always looking to maximize my time and potential as I work to break in. In this podcast, I talk to artists of all kinds who have seen success in their fields about their process, habits, and work ethic. Today on the show is Susan Merson. Susan's an actor, writer, and teacher. Susan has appeared in TV shows and films such as Terminator 3, Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and most recently Netflix's The Watcher, and a ton more. She's taught at NYU, Cal State Fullerton. Susan has written and produced a number of plays in both New York and LA, and as an author, she's written several books, including her most recent novel, How We Saw the Moon. A couple quick things before we jump into the episode. I've talked in the past about myself working on breaking into screenwriting. Please check out blackoilfilms.com/screenwriting. There you can check out some of the screenplays I've written. I have the first 10 pages of each one uploaded, but feel free to email me at theartistsworkethicpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to send you a full script if you're interested in reading. Last thing before we get into the episode, I would love anyone listening to subscribe, rate, and review the Artists Work Ethic Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps us put the show out there for more people to listen to. All right, Susan, thank you for coming on with me today.
Hi, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
So your career has crisscrossed between acting in TV, film, Broadway, writing books and plays, teaching. How are you structuring your day to balance life and productivity, with everything going on?
Well, there's an easy question. Okay, then. You take one, you do just what's in front of you. You take one step and then you do the other step. I think the bottom line is the construct as an artist today is like a Renaissance artist. You're like a Renaissance person and multitasking, if you want to use 2023 word. If you're an artist as by design or by sadness, the next thing that you approach, you have to do fully. When you understand that everything you do is part of the same impulse, which is to channel work that is larger than yourself into this life, then you give each thing the respect it needs. Things are concurrent, but on the other hand, the thing about being an artist in all the different ways that happen is that they're all on slow burners anyway. They're all there. And sometimes you just turn the heat up on one and move the focus to another. And if the language or the job that you're trying to get out into the world or the voice you're trying to get out in the world is not happening on burner number 6, maybe you're going to go to burner number 3 and see if you can get it out that way.
Yeah, just a kind of like a little bit of a pivot and a move to the next thing.
A pivot and a move, right. Well, when I was younger, it was a pivot and a move, like an easy move stroll to the next.
A little slide.
A little slide over there, yeah.
So do you think your work ethic comes from something in how you were raised or brought up, or some other external factor, in your life?
I don't know. I don't think of it as a work ethic. I think that's very, God bless you, it's very male paradigm. I think of it more as, I think if anything, I'm overly idealistic. That's how I was brought up. I mean, I had a vision from the time I was a 5-year-old kid. I knew I had something to say, and I have to do that. It's a compulsion, right? So there's no choice, right? It just eats away at you if you're not doing it. So, okay, if the acting isn't coming through, okay, so then maybe we're going to start writing. Oh, well, if the writing isn't coming through, then maybe start teaching the next generation. Or, okay, so if that's not working, what is the next possibility? Because the impulse comes from the same thing, which is we've come down here, we have a message, light workers, the time that we're living on the planet, and I think those of us who have this compulsion, if we don't get nuts and let it get into, crazy shit, we'll figure it out some way. We have to. If we don't, then it begins to come back in on yourself and you begin to get nutty. So that's the work ethic. The work ethic is listen.
How important do you think, specific to the arts, persistence and perseverance are to breaking through, we'll call it acting.
Yeah.
It's
That's a tough one.
maybe not in a battle of attrition, but just, staying patient within yourself.
Very
How
tough.
have you handled that in your
Yeah, it's very,
career?
very tough. I think acting is very different, right? Because you're not self-generative. And what my shift was when I was doing a play called Vanities back in the day off Broadway, and I was this big fancy star, and I couldn't get arrested, right? So then you say, well, what the fuck? Excuse my language. Are we doing here? That's right, good. And what happened was there was nothing I could do to control the assholes who either I looked like that person or I didn't look like that person. I'm a dark kind of Italian looking person, even though I'm a Jewish person. And when I was coming up as a young pretty one, that wasn't the look, right? So I had to come to the point where I had to say, okay, well, what is most important? Is it getting the job and being in the public eye, or is it doing the work in a corny way, even, when I just finished watching Comiskey Method, and the last thing he says, okay, let's do the work. But that's the thing that sustains us, right? So I can't control, even today, I can't control whether or not they're going to think my nose is too big on the TV screen and all that other shit that drives you out of your mind. But what I can control is, okay, I can write a book, I can teach, I can make 1,000 rugs. I can, I can read tarot and be an intuitive reader. These are all the things that have happened to get the message into the world, to get my work into the world.
I mean, that's a great way to, if you think about facing rejection, which, anyone in the arts deals with a lot. It's a great way to kind of face that, is to, we'll say, pivot again and, make something yourself, or try a different medium of some kind.
Well, I think you have to, and especially now in media. And if you're young and moving into it, you got to write the screenplay, you've got to do the podcast, you've got to do the television show on your website. That's what you have to do. In my day, it was like, write an extra solo play, or do an off-Broadway show, or whatever the fuck you could do. Here's the dichotomy. The difference is, are you going to earn a living at it? And is that the most important thing? Now, sometimes it's the most important thing. So if it's the most important thing, then you got to get hip with that. You got to figure out, what are they interested in, blah, blah, and do all that stuff. As a woman, and as a woman who in my heyday was considered quite attractive, and I was the cutie pie, right? The sex goddess, because I was dark, I was never cast, because it was all blondies and, people like that, right? And California Dreamin'. So I had to decide what was more important. And it's very difficult, because that's the job you want to be. My focus was always being an actor. I wanted to be an actor and do my work that way, right? And I did it very well all through Broadway and off Broadway, all the way up through my 30s. And then when I moved to LA, I did a lot of television and film. But at a certain point, you grow out of what the zeitgeist is, right? And you think, well, okay, well, now what am I going to do with myself? So that I think is the really where your spiritual practice comes in. If you're an artist, and if you're you don't have to be an artist to be an actor. It's okay. But those of us who are, I think you can't get away from it. You have to just keep doing it. It's very difficult. I think it's tough when somebody else says whether or not you can work.
Absolutely.
Oh dear, you're so attractive. Or, like 20-year-old casting person says, excuse me, what have you done? And it's like, excuse me, who the fuck are you? You can't let those triggers, you have to decide what you want. You want to be in the game again? Okay, play the fucking game. It's really hard.
So in terms of like organization, I'm a big list person. That's kind of how I'll organize myself and all of my different projects, kind of by like bucket almost. Mm-hmm. How do you organize yourself, whether it's, in your day-to-day or kind of long-term goal setting, which has always been important to me. It's kind of how I focus myself and get done what I need to get done. How do you approach that?
I'm not as organized as you. Lists are good for the grocery store. I will admit that right now, at this particular time in my life, at my young age of 73 years old, 72, I won't be 73 until April, that I am now attempting to focus enough to manifest specific goals in my work. I never have before, honestly. I think it's intuitive. For me, it was intuitive. Because the minute I made something intellectually clear to myself, it would take the glow off of it. That was my thing. So I believe in lists and organization. I believe that if you really want to get it done, then you have to know what your game is and play it. I don't think I'm a great example for that. I try, but I'm not.
Do you feel like, here's a quick one, do you feel like you work better in the, call it early morning or late night? I found most people tend to fall into one of the two. And
late night, definitely late night. Oh yeah, definitely. Don't talk to me before 11 o'clock in the morning. No. I love the stillness of late at night, and I got into it when my kid was little. You get them done, okay, but gone, in bed, good, whatever. Even the husband who's got to get up early, goodbye. And then you have this wonderful golden, open time. And I find that most of my work is not really conscious. I just find that a lot of it, because I've been writing so long and doing these things so long, I tend to not have a conscious awareness of the work that I'm doing. Like I cannot write for 3 or 4 days, and then when I sit down, it just comes right out because the processes have been going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anything that you want to plug or talk about? You had mentioned before we started, you had mentioned a new book.
Yes, I definitely want to plug that. It's going to come out very soon. Like maybe I'm going to probably do a book launch begin first week of February. It's called, it's my third novel. It's called How We Saw the Moon. Sorry about that. I got to get the right title. How We Saw the Moon. And I'm very interested how politics shoves us in our day-to-day life. So it's about the period between when Trump was elected, just before COVID. And it's how that awareness that we were shifting into something that was really more honest, the honest paradigm of the crook was leading our country, and what that did to the people who in some ways had fantasies about their goodness or fantasies about what was possible, etc. It's about how that awareness began. And I sure hope people will go to my website at www.susanmerson.com and check out my other books and my tarot reading, intuitive readings. And also, I teach writing, voicing classes for people who are wanting to move forward in their own visions. I also a copy editor, a development editor for books. Those many ways are the way in which I bring the gifts that I feel that I've gotten, into the world.
Awesome. Well, Susan, thank you for talking with me today.
Thank you so much, Mike. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening today. Please subscribe to the Artist Work Ethic podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, and please rate and review the show. Follow us on Instagram at The Artist's Work Ethic, and check out theartistsworkethic.com.